Hi guys, and welcome to this video on the full moon in Aries that happens on the 20th of October 2021 at 3:56 in the afternoon, and that's based on Europe time. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to read the chart that you can see next to me here, and I'm going to see how the planets interact, what this full moon is all about, and how you can make the most of it. The interesting thing about the chart is that the two strongest elements are air and fire. They're both masculine elements, and in astrology and the tarot, masculine energy is associated with creation and building and using your strength to overcome obstacles. Feminine energy, so earth and water, they're associated with reading symbols and looking what already exists and how you can adapt that to make it suit your needs and other people's needs. This is a very powerful time on the 20th of October where you feel very certain about your ideas, your inspirations, and how you can see those through to add more meaning to your life and to make it more enjoyable and more passionate and worth living. So if you find that you get distracted or other people influence you unduly, or you have a hard time asserting yourself, during this period, you're going to find it very easier to kind of fight your own battles, to stand in your own corner and to support yourself and to get things done. And also with a full moon, I always feel that it takes a couple of days. The moon builds up. So you'll start to feel this on the 19th, and it hits its pinnacle on the 20th. And then it wanes down again on the 21st, but it will still be accessible. And you'll sense this sense of self-belief and strength. The sun and the moon are 180 degrees away from each other, so that's called an opposition in astrology. The sun is at 27 degrees in Libra, so the sun is your conscious identity, is what makes you feel alive and what feels good and right. 2 and 7 is 9. In numerology, that's spirituality and completion. In the tarot, it's the hermit. And it says that the light and the strength comes from within here, your solar plexus. It doesn't come from anywhere else. So that strength of the sun in Libra allows you to build bridges with things that you haven't been able to connect with. So you've got many interests that are accessible to you on this day. And Libra in itself is the symbol of the scales. I always find it significant that it's the only zodiac sign that's not a living thing. It's balance and it's logic and it's making tough decisions for the greater good, maintaining a sense of community. So you're tapped into other people, but it's also ruled by, Libra that is, it's ruled by Venus, the planet of love and beauty and creativity. So on a conscious level, you'll be able to create beautiful things. So if you're a painter or an artist, this day, it supports you very much in generating new content. And because the sun is across from the moon here, you'll be able to express that beautifully. So the moon then is also 27 degrees, obviously, because they're exactly 180 degrees apart. And that's in Aries. The moon, usually, if I look at a birth chart, it indicates what comes naturally to you and what feels really easy. It's like the fabric of your identity, what's contained in that. And the moon in Aries is all about how am I going to get things moving on my own. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's the ram. So you're headstrong. You're not going to be discouraged by things being difficult. You don't give up at the first sign of trouble. It says, actually, if this is problematic, then it's worth doing, because then I get to use my power to overcome these problems and to make them my own and to be proud of myself and to create evidence that I can rely on myself, that I can do things on my own. And it's a wonderful way of building self-esteem, because usually when you act on this Aries energy, afterwards you've got something to show for it. 2 and 7 is 9. So the fire again stems from within here. So being sure about what you're feeling, what you want, what is meaningful, that's going to be a no-brainer. And even though you can connect with other people very well and you can be creative and do things in a fair and well thought out way, you're not going to let yourself be pushed into anything. You're not going to be distracted from your own path in life. That is of paramount importance to you. And creating an achievement that other people could look to, that's what's important. So it's not like I do something because you are allowing me to do it and you're supporting me through it. It's I do something independently and that will inspire you. And I'm doing this for myself and for the greater good. So anything that's eluded you, anything that's really scary, anything that puts you off and you don't feel like you have the courage or the confidence to engage with it, look at those things particularly on this day. It's going to feel fun. It's going to be enjoyable to tackle difficulties. So next to the sun, we've got Mars at 23 degrees in Libra. And Mars is the soldier. It's the masculine planet of drive and ambition and power. I want, therefore I get. And that's also in Libra, so it's interested in expressing itself beautifully. Creativity equals freedom on this day. 2 and 3 is 5, and that's freedom in numerology. Also, managing relationships and improving them and beautifying them as such, that's going to feel very satisfying. And again, it's let's say you're in a group of friends and you're the youngest, or you joined this friendship group last and you don't have this position of power in the community. Then you're going to reevaluate yourself and you're going to say, well, actually, I choose to be in this group of friends. And if I'm always being treated as the kid sister or the kid brother, is that something that I'm going to tolerate today? Because I make as much of a contribution as anyone else. I want to be taken seriously. I want to be seen for what I do. And then, most importantly, if that doesn't happen, if you continue to be treated in a way that you think is inappropriate, you're not going to try and change other people's minds and say, hey, why don't you take me seriously? You're just going to accept that and say, well, I'll leave you to do your own thing. I'm going to focus on my strengths and where I do feel strong and able, and I'm going to maximize that. And usually if you try and convince other people of who you are and what you're doing, it doesn't work. If you demonstrate it and if you make your own thing happen, then other people kind of twig onto that and they look at you and say, well, actually, maybe we need to reevaluate this person's position in the group. And I'm not saying that a friendship or a group of people where there's some sort of hierarchies involved is good or bad. What I'm saying is that it often crops up. And if you want to make changes, it's about focusing on what you can do on your own. That's going to have the biggest influence on those kind of situations on this day and usually in life in general. But there isn't going to be confusion during this full moon in Aries as to, should I explain myself and should I try and adapt this? No, it's I'm going to build with what I've got on my own and take it or leave it. It's very intolerant in the sense of I'm not going to put up with your issues today. I don't have the time for it. I don't have the patience for it. I'm on a really clear mission here, and woe unto anyone who prevents me from making progress. So with that said, watch out for anger and really launching into a tirade if someone does present you with something that you think is unjust or that slows you down. There is very little patience in this chart that I can see. We've got the moon forming a couple of aspect patterns with other things in the chart. So first of all, the moon in Aries, it forms a square with Pluto at 24 degrees in Capricorn. Pluto is transformation and change. It's the phoenix rising from the ashes. It's death and rebirth. So it's duality. It's boy and girl. It's joy or sadness. It's left and right. It's opposites. 2 and 4 is 6. That's an opportunity to change things. And Capricorn is the sign of the worker. So you'll feel in your bones that if I roll up my sleeves and if I work to change this situation for me, you'll make a lot of progress and you can change the foundations of a situation. The very core meaning of what's happening in your life can be altered through your efforts on this day. So the way other people see you, the way you create, if you've had writer's block, you'll be able to smash through that and just let the info flow. Your ability to take charge of situations and to speak your truth, or the way you present yourself. Do I hide or do I try and be overly nice because I'm afraid? Is it okay to just be me? And all of those things are going to say yes, 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 yes. In fact, it's essential that you do things on your own and that you get in touch with yourself, because that's where your strength resides. We've got a trine with the midheaven in Sagittarius at 11 degrees. The midheaven is about your work and your aptitudes when it comes to your practical life, what you're good at when you engage with the world. And Sagittarius is about adventure, and it's about extremes again. It's about blowing things up and not blowing things up as in the tower in the tarot. It's about expanding everything and making it seem bigger and having a sense of freedom and choice and saying, if I have a little bit of fun with this, then I can have even more fun with it. More is more, according to Sagittarius. So travel, adventures, things that are risky and thrilling, even things like gambling and speculating on the stock market, anything that is not guaranteed and that can have an extremely positive outcome if you get lucky. Those are all things that Sagittarius likes to engage with. It's also about education and connecting with the higher realms on an abstract level. So I want to travel as such by broadening my horizons and learning new things, or sitting down and meditating and connecting with higher beings. So it's very much about enjoying yourself and doing something that feels exciting, but as it relates to either the physical world or the higher realms. And you want to go there. You want to explore every nook and cranny to see what you haven't found just yet. So the new is going to appeal to you. And if you discover something worthwhile, again, it's going to serve as evidence of, I did this. No one else did. So therefore, I must have some power. 2 and 9 is 11, the master number of service. So actually, what you're doing here is you're asking, how can I discover new things to serve myself? How can I make my life more meaningful? And how can I then translate that to help other people and the community? I'm getting a message that if you're in a tough spot, like if things have been piling up and you're depressed and you're overwhelmed and you just don't see the point, which, I mean, if we're going to be honest, I've certainly been there in my life. I think most of us get to that point in our lives where we're just like, why am I even here? And why do I have to endure all of this on a day-to-day basis? If you're in that spot, this is an amazing opportunity to overcome that obstacle and to find something in this universe, in this life, on this planet, that makes you feel like, wow, this really is worth living. And my life is a gift. And I can rediscover my joy if I open myself up today. So there's the potential for hope to come in and to leave behind your difficulties and to trade them in for assets and positives. And that's priceless, really. We have a Sesky square between the moon in Aries and, need to look at this carefully and do the line. Venus in Sagittarius at 14 degrees. Venus is the planet of love and beauty and everything that's charming and sexual and creative. And that gives you that magic feeling of, wow, this is really almost like a dream, this experience. I just love it. That rules the sun in Libra, right? Because Libra is ruled by Venus. So that has a strong influence on your identity. And it's at 14 degrees in Sag. So 14 degrees is 5, more freedom. And Sagittarius is, I want to be free to explore whatever it is that interests me. So what you love to do is this process of discovery. It's not about the actual end result of, I found a giant diamond at the bottom of the mine. It's the actual digging that's fun, and the process of anticipating something hidden and good that you're going to discover by yourself. So you're really an adventurer here on this day. You're like an explorer. You're someone going into a new country and seeing what's there and making a map of it and trying to understand it and see what's hidden in the forest or the rocks or the jungle. It's not wanting to have a plan and embracing the uncertainty and saying, this is amazing. If I apply myself to this, I'm going to discover all of these mind-blowing new discoveries, mind-blowing new treasures in life and in the world. So with Venus in Sagittarius as well, what's supported is your ability to connect with the higher realms, because that is expanded too. and you have an affinity for any type of exploration. So if you've tried to meditate or to find, if you're an agnostic and it's bothered you and you've tried to find some sort of meaning through belief or God or whatever it is, and you look at other people and you're like, how can they be so certain that there's some good force out there that's instrumental in their lives and that's guiding them? How do they know that? Like, are they just that way inclined from birth, or have they had some discovery? I certainly don't get it. So if you're in that space, it's a good opportunity to try and to connect with something bigger, to discover a God of your own understanding, as they would say in the recovery programs, because that's the difference between a religion and spirituality as far as I'm concerned. If you're in a religion, then God is a certain thing and there's certain rules, you have to stick by those, and that's the relationship. But spirituality is finding the God within. It's going inside or connecting with the higher realms or the universe, which all resides in you anyway, and saying, what is in here? Let me have a look. And then you either go on that journey through a spiritual technique like meditation, which can actually pave the way for us to get to some sort of discovery or meaning. And you discover that it's not just the human spirit that is alive in you and that has some sort of a meaning, but that there's a loving, positive, good, strong energy that has a life of its own that lives in you. And then when you find that and you create a relationship with it by engaging with it and seeing what it's like and getting to know it, like any relationship, then that not only gives you a sense of certainty that there are good things at work and that will help you in life, but also that you're a lot more than you realize. You're not just a body, you're not just a spirit, you're something divine, because it resides in you. Wow, so, okay. Slightly profound here on the full moon in Aries. So that's the Sesky square with the moon and Venus. Then we have more things connecting. We have, do we? Okay, so we've got the opposition with the moon and the sun and Mars. I've talked about that. Then Venus, yup, got it. Midheaven, Sag, got it. Pluto in Capricorn, got that. And that's it. As far as the moon is concerned, those are the relationships it forms. But I just want to have a look at some of the other things in this chart, which I feel are important. So first of all, the rising sign is 29 degrees in Pisces. The rising sign is what your default setting is in a crisis, how you react when things get tough and what you immediately do as a response. Pisces is about spirituality, the higher realms, and 29 is another 11, service. So you understand that the easiest way to find meaning and to generate and to build something on this day is to go within, not without. Chiron's in the first house at 9 degrees in Aries, near the moon. And Chiron is the wounded healer. In Aries, it's interested in healing the self. And at 9 degrees, again, we've got spirituality and completion. So we've got lots of things all saying the same thing in different ways. Chiron is saying if you want to regain your strength and if you don't want to feel wounded all the time, then transform yourself by a connection with something bigger that resides within. And that's what's going to give you your power back, and it will encourage you to go on. Uranus is at 13 degrees in Taurus. So the real world will seem chaotic and difficult to understand. And that encourages you to look away from the real world for answers and to try and find meaning, because it's all over the place anyway. So it's another factor that says, look within. So the repetition is significant as far as I'm concerned, because most of us, well, I know, in my life, I've known a couple of people who were naturally spiritually inclined and who naturally had an affinity for things that are unseen. Myself, I'm a Virgo, and the strongest element in my chart is Earth. So until I was 28, I really couldn't be bothered with spirituality at all. I just thought, why should I try and suss out some sort of hidden meaning in something that may or may not exist on some other dimension or universe. I've got enough to do in my actual life. I've got a job to go to and bills to pay. Let me focus on that. At least I know where I'm at with that stuff. But that didn't work out for me so well. And at 28, I deliberately looked into spirituality, and I found a way to connect for me through meditation. And it's by doing that my whole life really changed. And I say that honestly, and I really mean that. I started doing this work that I really enjoy doing. I was able not to take practical things so seriously because now I realized there was something bigger and more meaningful going on behind the scenes. So that whole process is really important. If you get to a point where it's like, the meaning of my existence isn't advertised on planet Earth, if I'm going to try and understand this, or at least get a sense of it and feel good about it, then at some point I am going to have to go within. And Uranus at 13 degrees in Taurus says the world is implacable, so don't look within. That at least is translucent. You can find some meaning there. I also always thought, if there is a higher power that loves me so much and speaks to me, why don't you give me clear messages? Like, why be so cagey? And that always put me off. I was just like, well, I'm right here. If you want to have a conversation, then just talk to me. But that's not how it works, because we do inhabit different kind of realities. And the bridge, the intermediary, where you can get messages and have a conversation, again, is in here, in the abstract, in your spirit. Okay, what else? Neptune is in Pisces, so the ability to connect with abstract things isn't going to seem so complicated and difficult. It's going to seem like, wow, there's so much to go on, let me try it. Jupiter at 22 degrees in Aquarius means that your ideas that stem from going within, so you find that the world doesn't make so much sense, right? You go within and you're like, let me find out what's meaningful to me and what fires me up. It's that process of going within that gives you new ideas and inspiration. And Jupiter, being the lucky planet at 22 degrees, means that those ideas are going to be concrete and significant, and you can build something meaningful with them. So jot down the things that you find important at this stage in your life and what you want to do in future and what you want to create and build on your own. Take those very seriously and try and pick one or two that you can actually do something with in the here and now. Get going with that. It's going to surprise you in the sense of how structured and solid that becomes. Saturn is at 6 degrees in Aquarius. So a natural affinity and self-reliance on your own ideas and what you can do with it. Wow. Everything lines up to say, you're the boss, trust yourself and go for it. Mercury is in Libra at 10 degrees. And I mentioned that it's direct. So it's able to create beautifully. It's able to be charming and to articulate itself very well. 10 is 1 in numerology. And that's, again, independence. And you're the pioneer. And that grand trine then is created. The grand trine is the big blue triangle in the chart that you can see at the center. And that is created via 3 trines interacting. And the first one is with Mercury in Libra. That trines Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn in Aquarius then trines the North Node in Gemini and Black Moon Lilith in Gemini. And that goes back to Mercury. So the big talent is that you're so self-reliant that you're able to overcome your own blockages and own faulty thinking that would usually keep you quiet. And that would usually say, censor yourself. Don't trust your own ideas. Be in a supporting role. Don't put yourself out there. It's too risky. You don't know what you're talking about anyway. Do more research, all of that stuff. So the big talent is the self-belief that you do have something valuable to contribute and you're going to do it today. I like it. Okay. Anything else? Let's see. I don't know what I'd call this. There's certain aspect patterns that are called things like grand trines and kites and grand crosses. But here we've got a red triangle And there isn't a word for it in astrology. I would call it a triangle of friction, just through, it's two sesqui squares and a square creating this weird triangle. And the red lines are always more friction, and the blue lines are about energy coming together in a harmonious way and blending together. So we've got Pluto and Capricorn forming a square with the Sun and Mars in Libra, and then the two sesqui squares include Black Moon Lilith in Gemini. Okay, so Black Moon Lilith wants to be mentioned. Black Moon Lilith, I always interpret as the part of your chart where your ego tries to hold you down and keep you small. And at 10 degrees in Gemini, it's that unwillingness to generate your own content and to have the courage to say, this is how I feel. These are my ideas and this is the truth. So a lot of people don't even finish their sentences. You know, a lot of people say, oh, well, and if that happens, I'm going to be really, because they don't want to say I'm going to be really angry or I'm going to be really happy, because then they are committing to something. Or a lot of people say, I'm not going to write a short story because other people will read it and they might think it's rubbish. So I'm not even going to bother. And that's the Black Moon Lilith at 10 degrees in Gemini. Because if every artist or human being thought that way, it would be very quiet and we'd have very little to read. And at some point in life, again, well, if we're lucky, I suppose, we get to a point where it's like, really, am I going to censor myself forever just for the sake of other people, or because of my fear, or because things could go wrong? Or should I speak my mind? And it's a justified fear at times. You know, if you do speak your mind, other people may not like it. But on the flip side of that, if you do speak your mind and create a book, or you say how you really feel, like you say to your partner and you've just been seeing each other for a few months, and you say, do you know what, I do love you. You may be surprised because our partner may then say, oh, thank goodness, I love you too. I've been wanting to tell you for ages. So sometimes we need to have the courage to really be ourselves. Otherwise, what are we doing, you know? I just find it funny at times because reading these charts, it makes me sound so wise. And I just wish I could apply all of these great insights to my own life at times. I don't always get it right, but it's nice to at least have a blueprint here, like this astrology chart that says these are the meanings and this is what's happening on this day. So I'm really encouraged by this full moon in Aries on the 20th because it gives you an amazing backbone to go on your own journey and to go on a mission that you think is valuable and worth pursuing. So yeah. So that's what I get on this day. I hope that gives you something to go on. If you would like to have a personal reading with me, so I can draw up your birth chart, same way I drew up this birth chart, by taking your date of birth, your place of birth, and your time of birth. If you don't have the time of birth, there's a process called chart rectification, which you can order on my website. You give me 10 or more life events and I can actually work out your time of birth. But once I have those three things, then I draw up a chart, a snapshot of the sky at the moment you were born, similar to this chart. And then I can read it in exactly the same way and apply it to your identity and what your strengths are and what you're going to be good at work, what your working talents are, where your ego tries to hold you back and sabotage you. And also kind of what's destined for you in certain areas where you're naturally good. So your relationships and finance, your sense of identity, communication, family, work, institutions, travel, education, hopes and dreams, relationships, spirituality, anything at all really. So if you do have any questions about who you are and where your strengths lie and where your weaknesses are and how you could work on those, then please do get in touch with me for a personal reading. By my website, it's gregoryscott.com. On the front page, click on book your reading to order your reading with me. And in the readings, I also use the tarot, I use numerology, my intuition, I combine them. With the astrology, I draw up your progress chart and your transits to see what's coming up in future, your solar return chart around your birthday to see what the next year holds, and astrocartography to look at certain areas of the planet and how they specifically influence you. So there's so much information that's available via the astrology and the other divination systems. It's really amazing. So if you are interested in that and you would like to get in touch, then please head to gregoryscott.com. If you like this video, then give it a thumbs up. hit subscribe and share the video online. That'd be amazing, so that other people become aware of the full moon in Aries. I hope you have a wonderful time here, and I'll speak to you soon.